Have you ever felt like someone out there knows more about your life than they should? Like those oddly specific ads, phone calls, or financial offers that show up right after a doctor visit or a private conversation with your family. That's not a coincidence. That's surveillance. You're being watched. And I don't mean online. I mean in real life. In your car, at the store, maybe even right now. Everywhere. I've seen what's really out there. I've lived through it myself. And I'm here to give you a serious warning. One you absolutely cannot afford to ignore. Hi, it's Vernon again. Today, I'm going to reveal 5 places where seniors are being secretly monitored in ways that would have seemed like science fiction just 20 years ago. More importantly, I'm going to share practical strategies for protecting your privacy without becoming a hermit or giving up the conveniences that technology can provide. If you care about your freedom, your dignity, and your right to move through the world without being quietly tracked, this video is for you. So, take a moment now to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a like, because what you're about to learn may change the way you look at everyday life. Let's begin with the first place you're probably being watched and don't even know it.
Number 1. The smart home that's too smart for your own good. There's something profoundly unsettling about the realization that the devices we invite into our homes to make life easier might be the very instruments that strip away our most intimate privacy. Smart speakers, security cameras, thermostats, televisions, and even refrigerators have quietly transformed our living spaces into data collection centers. The ancient Greek concept of oikos referred to the household as a sanctuary, a private domain where one could exist free from public scrutiny. But modern smart homes have quietly dissolved this boundary, turning our most private spaces into observation platforms for corporate interests. Research from the Electronic Frontier Foundation reveals that the average smart home contains devices that collectively share data with over 30 different companies, most of which users are completely unaware of. These companies build detailed profiles that can predict health issues, financial stress, relationship problems, and emotional states based solely on device usage patterns. The solution isn't necessarily to abandon all smart devices, but to use them consciously. Start by reviewing the privacy settings on every connected device in your home. Many can be configured to store data locally rather than in the cloud, or to limit what information they collect and share. Consider creating separate networks for your smart devices, isolated from your personal computers and phones. Use tape to cover cameras when not in use, and establish smart-free zones in your home where you can exist without electronic observation. Most importantly, regularly review what companies have access to your data and exercise your right to request deletion of stored information. Remember, convenience is valuable, but it shouldn't come at the cost of your fundamental privacy and autonomy.
Number 2. Healthcare facilities and the data they collect.
From the moment you enter a medical facility, your behavior, conversations, and even emotional responses are being monitored and analyzed in ways that would shock most seniors. I learned this firsthand when I accompanied my sister Ruth to her oncologist appointments. Ruth, 69 and battling early-stage breast cancer, was focused entirely on her treatment and recovery. What neither of us initially realized was the extent to which the medical facility was collecting data not just about her diagnosis and treatment, but about her family dynamics, financial concerns, emotional responses, and lifestyle choices. The facility used facial recognition software in waiting areas to monitor stress levels and emotional states. Voice analysis technology in exam rooms assessed not just what Ruth said, but how she said it, building profiles of her mental health, compliance likelihood, and family support systems. Even her walking patterns in hallways were tracked to assess mobility and predict future care needs. Most concerning, this data wasn't staying within the medical facility. Ruth discovered that information about her diagnosis, treatment responses, and family situation was being shared with pharmaceutical companies for research, insurance networks for risk assessment, and data brokers who sold health-related information to marketing companies. Ruth began receiving targeted advertisements for expensive supplements, alternative treatments, and financial services specifically designed for cancer patients, often before she'd fully processed her diagnosis herself. The challenge for seniors is that much of this data collection happens automatically and invisibly. We sign consent forms that we don't fully read, assuming they only cover medical treatment, when in fact they often grant broad permissions for data collection, analysis, and sharing. To protect yourself in healthcare settings, start by carefully reading all consent forms and asking specific questions about data collection, storage, and sharing policies. You have the right to limit what information can be shared and with whom, though you may need to explicitly opt out of certain programs. Consider asking whether facilities use facial recognition, voice analysis, or behavioral monitoring technologies, and request to opt out when possible. Keep detailed records of what information you share and with whom, and regularly review your medical privacy rights under HIPAA.
Number 3. Retail spaces and the psychology of consumer tracking. You must know, every store you enter, every purchase you make, every product you linger over is being recorded and used to build detailed profiles of your vulnerabilities, preferences, and financial capacity. The ancient Roman philosopher Seneca warned about the manipulation of desire. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor. But modern retail surveillance has turned this insight into a science of artificial desire creation, specifically targeting seniors who may be more vulnerable to emotional manipulation. For many seniors, shopping used to be simple. You walked into a store, browsed the aisles, paid in cash, and left with what you needed. But today, retail spaces have become sophisticated arenas of surveillance, quietly gathering data about your behavior, preferences, and emotional state from the moment you step through the door. What most people don't realize is that modern retail environments are designed not just to sell products, but to study people, especially older consumers who often carry more purchasing power and loyalty than younger demographics. Hidden cameras track where your eyes linger on a shelf. Floor sensors measure your walking pace and path through the store. Smart shelves detect when you pick up an item and when you put it back. Even music tempo and lighting are adjusted in real time based on predictive behavior models tied to your demographic profile. Also, there are even more sophisticated monitoring systems that specifically target seniors' financial behavior.
Number 4. Financial institutions and digital footprint monitoring. Perhaps nowhere is senior surveillance more sophisticated and potentially dangerous than in the financial sector, where banks, credit companies, and investment firms have developed extraordinarily detailed monitoring systems that track not just your financial transactions, but your entire digital life to assess your economic behavior, health status, and cognitive capacity. This reality hit me hard when I tried to dispute a series of investment recommendations that had cost me significantly. During the process, I discovered my financial advisor had access to far more than just my banking records. The institution had been tracking my online activity, social media, purchase history, healthcare usage, even my driving habits through connected car data. They knew when I had doctor appointments, what medications I was on, how I was sleeping, and whether my decision-making showed signs of cognitive decline. This surveillance allowed them to time investment pitches for moments when I was most vulnerable, after medical visits, during social isolation, or when my digital behavior suggested stress or confusion. I was even flagged as a candidate for high-fee financial products because my data indicated possible mental decline. Most disturbing of all, I learned that this behavioral data is routinely shared with insurance companies, healthcare providers, and other financial entities, building a profile of my vulnerabilities that could impact my coverage, eligibility, and financial future. For seniors, this surveillance is particularly problematic because it can be used to identify and target individuals who may be experiencing cognitive decline, social isolation, or financial stress, precisely the conditions that make people vulnerable to financial exploitation. To protect yourself from financial surveillance, start by reviewing the privacy policies of all your financial institutions and opting out of data sharing when possible. Regularly check your credit reports not just for accuracy, but for signs of unexpected inquiries or monitoring. Consider using separate email addresses and phone numbers for financial communications, and be cautious about linking social media accounts to financial services. Monitor your accounts not just for unauthorized transactions, but for patterns of recommendations or offers that seem suspiciously well-timed to your personal circumstances. Have you ever received a financial offer, alert, or message that felt oddly specific, like your bank knew something about your life that you never told them? If so, you're not alone. Share your experience in the comments below. Your story might help someone else spot the signs of silent financial surveillance before it's too late. If you thought surveillance was limited to cameras and retail shelves, think again, because some of the most invasive monitoring is happening where you least expect it, which we'll explore right this.
Number 5. Social media platforms and the illusion of privacy. For many seniors, social media started out as a way to reconnect with old friends, share family updates, and feel less isolated. But what most don't realize is that these platforms are not free public squares. They're highly engineered surveillance systems designed to extract data from every post, like, click, and scroll. Social media gives the illusion of privacy, settings that suggest you're in control, filters that make you feel selective, and terms of service no one really reads. But behind the scenes, your personal updates are being tracked, categorized, and monetized with alarming precision. Social media platforms have created a digital cave where seniors often mistake algorithmic manipulation for genuine social interaction, not realizing that their emotions and relationships are being deliberately influenced for profit. Research from the Center for Humane Technology reveals that social media platforms use over 200 psychological techniques specifically designed to maximize addiction and emotional engagement, with seniors being particularly vulnerable to manipulation tactics that exploit loneliness, health anxiety, and financial insecurity. The platforms don't just collect data, they actively experiment with seniors' emotional states, testing different content combinations to see what generates the strongest reactions. Your grief, joy, anger, and fear become data points in experiments designed to increase platform profits rather than genuine well-being. To protect yourself on social media, start by understanding that these platforms are not neutral communication tools. They are sophisticated manipulation systems designed to influence your emotions and behavior. Review and adjust all privacy settings. Limit the personal information you share, and be conscious of how the platform is making you feel. Consider using social media in time-limited sessions rather than allowing it to become a constant presence in your life. Be skeptical of content that generates strong emotional reactions, and remember that what you see is being curated by algorithms with commercial rather than personal interests. Most importantly, maintain real-world relationships and activities that don't depend on digital platforms, ensuring that your social and emotional life isn't entirely subject to corporate surveillance and manipulation. As we reach the end of this sobering exploration, I want you to understand something crucial. The 5 surveillance systems I've revealed: smart home monitoring, healthcare data collection, retail behavior tracking, financial institution surveillance, and social media manipulation aren't separate issues. They're interconnected components of a comprehensive monitoring network that treats seniors as sources of valuable data rather than autonomous individuals deserving of privacy and respect. Each system feeds information to the others, creating detailed profiles that can predict and influence your health decisions, financial choices, shopping behavior, and even your relationships with family members. The cumulative effect is a loss of privacy and autonomy that would have been unimaginable to previous generations. If you felt alarmed rather than surprised by these revelations, if you recognized your own experiences in these examples, then you understand why privacy protection has become one of the most important life skills for people our age. We must learn to navigate a world that treats our personal information as a commodity while maintaining our dignity, autonomy, and authentic connections. each discovered the same fundamental truth. In the digital age, privacy isn't something that happens automatically. It's something you must actively protect and consciously maintain. Perhaps reviewing your smart home device settings, or questioning what data your doctor's office collects, or examining your social media privacy controls. Make conscious choices about what convenience you're willing to trade for privacy and what boundaries you want to maintain. Give this video a like, share it with someone you care about, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future content that empowers you to protect your privacy, your choices, and your life. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you're the first to know when new insights are released. Because in a world where you're being quietly watched, knowledge is your first line of defense. This is Vernon. Thank you for joining me today, and see you next time.